Happy Mother's Day. Obviously, I want to shout out my own mom as well as my wife, who is the mother of my 3 kids. They are currently at church, and so both symbolically and literally, I could not be here without my amazing wife, who's holding down the fort and has for so long. So I wanted to thank all mothers, but I also wanted to just take a second to refute the ridiculous lie that our culture perpetuates about being a mom and its value. And of course, Satan would take something that is most foundational, most fundamental, most significant, and try to say, nah, it doesn't matter that much. What a lie. And I think we just stand together in acknowledging that lie and instead saying what's true, which is that you guys are incredible and valuable, and we are so grateful for you. So thank you for being here. I wanted to frame my message through the lens of this day to a degree because I think it's relevant not only for moms, but parents in general. And I wanted to ask the question, what does it look like to be successful as a parent? And I promise this will apply to you no matter what season of life you're in. But it's an important question to ask and one that I wrestle with all the time, right? As a dad, I want to be successful. So I got to know what that means. And as I was reflecting on it, what it doesn't mean is I am not successful if I raise incredible athletes. Though I love sports and watching my kids play sports, that's not the goal. The goal is not to raise academics or entrepreneurs or even nice moral people. That isn't the goal for parents who are followers of Jesus. The goal fundamentally is to raise kids who want to know and love Jesus and who want to serve him. That is the ultimate goal. So how do we do that? So much has been written, so much has been said about this topic, but as I reflect on my own journey and I think about what I think is the most significant and sadly, typically the most missing thing, is that for kids to want to know and love Jesus, they need to see that he is active and relevant outside of the church. Look, we need to bring them here. They need to learn. They need to grow. But if they don't think he has any power or relevance for the world they're going to spend most of their time in, that's a battle they're going to lose. They need to see what's true, and that is that Jesus is active and powerful outside of the church. And I think one of the crucial ways that they see that is that it's modeled through the way I live. Because ultimately, we cannot give them what we do not have. We can't just drop them off here and hope they absorb this and then live it out. They have to see it in me. They need to see in my life this demonstration that Jesus is powerful and active outside of the church. So this morning, I want to talk about what I believe are 3 critical aspects of becoming the kind of person who would demonstrate through their lives that Jesus is, again, active and powerful outside of the church. And there are these 3 things: know the crisis, build the foundation, proclaim the truth. So the crisis. I don't think I have to tell you that our world is in trouble, right? Even in this picturesque town right outside of these walls, people are devastated. They're in crisis. And I think it's natural as followers of Jesus and as parents to want to protect our kids from it. We can inadvertently think the goal is just to keep them safe, isolate them, build fences around them, provide alternatives for them. But I would contend that our number one job is not to make them safe, but make them ready. We need to prepare our kids for a world they will face. They are going to face the real world. Will they be ready? Well, here's what I can tell you. They will not be prepared for something they don't understand. And again, as parents, in our job to model that, or any follower of Jesus, we have to have a deep, intimate understanding of the world around us. It's crucial to making a difference. So what are things like? Well, according to studies, over 50% of Gen Z describe themselves as religiously unaffiliated. It's the first generation in American history where a majority of its adherents say, meh, not interested in God. And it's crucial that we understand or ask the question, how did we get to a place like this? And my contention is that we have a worldview problem. So what's a worldview? A worldview is a collection of attitudes, values, stories, and expectations about the world around us which inform our thoughts and actions. If I was to go onto the streets 50 to 100 years ago and ask questions like, how did we get here? What's right or wrong? Does God exist? Is there a heaven and a hell? The overwhelming majority of the answers would be through a Judeo-Christian lens. Even if not everyone was living it out, almost everyone would say God exists. The Bible is authority. Heaven and hell are real. If I go on the streets today and ask those same questions, the answers are very different. And I think what you'll find is that the dominant mindset of culture today is secular humanism. And this is really just simply put as the worship of me. God no longer defines reality. God no longer determines what's true. I do. I get to decide what's true. I get to decide who I want to be, where I want to go, what I want to do. I am now in charge. Secular humanism. And really, there are three main pillars of this worldview that I think you'll all recognize when I describe them, but they're crucial for us to understand in a little bit of depth. And they are secularism, relativism, and tolerance. So secularism. There are not that many hardcore atheists today. I mean, they're out there for sure, but by and large, people are usually more agnostic or indifferent. And so secularism is really not characterized by the discarding of God altogether, but it's really more about the privatization and the marginalization of the religious. So what I mean by that, and you'll know what I'm saying, is that now today it's not so much that religion is wrong, just don't impose it on me. Right? It's private. It's like between you and you. Like it's cool. Believe what you want to believe. Have your faith. But just don't bring it into the public conversation, right? It's why at parties you don't talk about politics or religion. Those are private affairs. You keep those to yourself if you want to keep the peace. So secularism is again, the marginalization and privatization of the religious. Then we have relativism. And this is the idea that truth used to be grounded in God. Right? It wasn't some arbitrary thing. Like it wasn't your opinion or my opinion, right? We'd go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What does God say? That's how we viewed truth for the longest time. But now truth has been reduced to preference, right? It's like fashion or ice cream, whatever. It's cool. Doesn't matter. You know, there's no right or wrong answer. Just whatever makes you feel good. Whatever works for you. It's utilitarian. It's pragmatic. It's individual. It's subjective. Right? We live in this era of my truth, this logical nonsense that 8 billion people can define truth for themselves, which is of course crazy, but that is the air we breathe. And then we have tolerance. And tolerance is really just the logical extension of relativism. I mean, think about it. If the only sin is to tell somebody they're wrong, then the only rule is tolerance. Right? Our culture says, whoa, whoa, whoa. The only thing that you have to do is accept all views, all ideas, all people, all expressions as valid and true. Right? So in a world that claims there are no absolute truths, ironically, they smuggle in one absolute truth: tolerance. And this secularism, relativism, and tolerance as the main tenets of secular humanism is everywhere. It sounds nerdy the way I'm describing it, but the fact is, it's in every Disney movie, it's on social media. Be you. Follow your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you what you should believe. You decide. It's in the very air we breathe. And on the surface, it sounds pretty good. Right? Like it sounds pretty sophisticated. It sounds very tolerant. Like, oh, you do you. Right? Live and let live. Why are we imposing ourselves on other people? Can't everyone just decide for themselves? And yet the consequences are devastating. And as Satan so often does, he'll take these half-truths that sound liberating, that sound attractive, but like poison covered in a thin layer of something sweet, they ultimately lead to our destruction. And that is exactly what is happening in 4 key ways. The first way is that we do not know who we are. We have no idea who we are. We used to find our identity in God. He defines who I am. I am a son of God. I am a daughter of God. This gives me extraordinary value, inalienable value, rights that cannot be taken away from me, rights that are not dependent on the fickle opinions of others. That is solid. But in the absence of God, what can I do but make it up for myself? Because that's what I'm told. You just decide who you want to be. Everything's up for grabs. But this is a psychological impossibility. I cannot just tell myself who I am. And so all I've done is traded this amazing source of identity in God for the fickle opinion of my friends on social media. I've traded this beautiful, profound sense of rights and value and identity for just the opinions of people who don't even care about me at all and are as insecure as I am. Or worse still, I'm crushed under the weight of the meritocracy, right? This idea that I am what I do, right? So we have this hustle culture where it's like grind and be successful and get followers and look good and do all these things, but it doesn't work and it's never enough. So we have no idea who we are. We don't know why we're here. We have this meaning and purpose crisis in our culture where, we used to have our purpose found in God. Worship Him, be in relationship with Him, worship, follow what His design, love and serve other people. Right? This was a solid foundation for purpose. This actually satisfies me. But in the absence of God, all I have is what Solomon called things under the sun. Right? Material things. But Solomon was rich and powerful and experienced more pleasure than you and I ever will. And at the end of his life, he says this, I observed everything going on under the sun, and really it is all meaningless, like a chasing the wind. It is all meaningless. It does not satisfy. But in the absence of God, what else do we have? Where else can I find my hope? Where else can I find my meaning? So we don't know who we are. We don't know why we're here. As I said, we don't know what's true, right? We've relativized truth. It's just preference. It's just 8 billion blind leading the blind, right? So we have no idea. We're constantly outraged, but have nothing to base it on. Living in continual incongruence, internal dissonance. We don't know what's true. And then we don't know where we belong. God is the foundation for authentic community. Community is intrinsic within God Himself. It's such a profound, ethereal idea, but Father, Son, Holy Ghost, God is community. God institutes community. God, even pre-fall, says it's not good for man to be alone. God gives us this injunction to build this church of self-denial and sacrificial service. In God, we have this profound basis for community. What does the world have? I don't know. I guess we need to be together for warmth and reproduction, right? Helps us survive. It's utilitarian, it's pragmatic. The degree to which I can gain from you, improve my status and my survival, that's the degree to which I need you. But apart from that, it's about me. We have no idea where we belong. Right? We have a culture that worships self, but here's what I can promise you. You put yourself in the center for long enough, you end up in the center alone. Right? And then you combine that with technology and societal things that have fostered and fueled and amplified these impulses we have for selfishness, and now we are devastated because we are so alone, imprisoned in our own selfish kingdoms. So we don't know who we are, we don't know why we're here, we don't know what's true, and we don't know where to belong. Is anyone surprised we have a crisis? Is it any surprise that we're more anxious, more confused, more suicidal, more alone than ever? It's devastating. What do we do about it? Beyond just having a profound understanding, beyond just leaning into the mess, what do we do about it? Well, for that, I want to look to Nehemiah in the Old Testament. Because Nehemiah is this incredible example of how you meet the needs of a crisis, how you confront the crisis of your day. You see, Nehemiah had this really interesting job, right? He's this cupbearer to the Persian king. So even though he's a Jew, he has it good, right? He's got comfort. He's got prestige. He could have just rode that out. But then he has some relatives come and visit him, and what they tell him, it kind of ruins the whole thing. Because they say, Nehemiah, things are not good. The walls have been burnt down. Our people are in ruins. And Nehemiah responds like this. It says in Nehemiah 1:4, when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Nehemiah reveals two crucial aspects of the proper foundation for meeting the needs of the world around us. The first is our hearts need to break. Not only do we have to know, but we actually have to care. And if we want to raise kids that care, we better show them that we do. We better show that our concern for the world is not just indifference or hostility. It's not just us versus them, people to avoid. These are people that Jesus died for, and this should break our hearts. There is no hope of raising kids that won't want to reach the world if in us they see indifference or hostility. And yet too often that is how my heart is. When is the last time you wept? When is the last time I wept because of the conditions of the world around me? And then he responds in prayer. Again, he's demonstrating something so important. You see, Nehemiah looked at the crisis and he looked at himself and he didn't go, yeah, I got it. Cool. All right, let's get to work. That's not what he did. Nehemiah looked at himself in the crisis and said, really? What am I supposed to do? What could I possibly do? He responds in desperate prayer because he recognizes that if God doesn't do it, it won't happen. He is woefully inadequate to meet the needs of the world, and so am I. And so are you. Our kids don't need to see some strategic, practical program approach to the crisis around us. They need to see people who recognize that only God can meet the needs of the world. Sometimes it's like we internalize the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fish like this. Okay, well, we got 5 loaves and 2 fish. How do we make the most use of it? You know, do we just like break it up into really small pieces? That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is what the boy offered Jesus was ridiculous. Like humanly, what was that going to do? It's only that in that Jesus multiplies the offering that we give him that we feed the masses. So the proper foundation that we need to live out and demonstrate is a broken heart and a commitment to desperate prayer. Hebrews 11:6, this is extraordinary. It says it's impossible to please God without faith because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who desperately seek him. God will reward you, and every major move of God begins when people begin to take prayer seriously. Then we need to proclaim the truth. Nothing changed my life more than watching God move outside of the church. When I was young, growing up, my dad had this band, and we'd go all over Europe, all over the world eventually. We'd be in these secular clubs and venues and festivals, and we'd be proclaiming the gospel in those environments. My dad would bring my brother and I on stage as young kids, and he would say, these are my sons. And I love them. I would die for them. And I'm just an imperfect human father. There is a father who knows and loves you, who loves you so much that he was willing to die for you. And I'm, as a young kid, watching all of these kids lost and confused coming on stage, giving their lives to Jesus. And I mean this in no way to disparage the church or the programs we have, but there was no youth group, no sermon, no camp that inspired my life more than watching God move powerfully outside of the church. It revolutionized my life. Our kids need to see and understand that our faith is not a cultural club of slightly more moral people, but that Jesus has the power to change the world and wants to use you and I to do it. That will change everything. So how do we demonstrate his power? 1 Corinthians 2:2-4. For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I came to you in weakness and with great fear and trembling. My message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power. God reveals his power outside of the church when we talk about the cross. Not when we talk about our morality, not when we talk about our facts, not when we sell a program for behavioral change. God's power, like dynamite, is unleashed when we talk about Christ and him crucified outside of the church. And I don't think there is a better way for you and I to do that than through our story. Such a profound way to talk about Jesus and what he has done. That's why it says in Revelation 12:11, they've conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives so as to shy away from death. I need to stop sharing facts. I need to stop sharing morals. Or like I said, a program for behavior modification. What I need to start sharing is my testimony. I was dead. I'm alive. I was broken and I'm healed. I was lost and I am found. When we share this story, God moves in power. In our spheres of influence, with our friends, on the sports field, in your neighborhoods, at school, I was dead, and now I'm alive. We talk about the cross through the power of our stories, and God moves. Look, I know for every parent in the room, every grandparent, and frankly, every follower of Jesus, we want our lives to count. We want to make a difference. That is what we are called to. And for the parents in the room, I know the greatest gift would not just be have kids that endure the world, but rise up to transform it. Who are difference makers in this world. But in order for that to happen, it has to start with me. It has to start with me. I have to be aware of the crisis, really aware, lean in, open my eyes. I need to allow God to break my heart. This is not some duty or subject or program. I need to allow God to break my heart. I need to respond in desperate prayer, recognizing that it's not going to be my strategy or my efforts or talents that's going to make the difference, but only God's power. And then I need to proclaim the truth through my story to a world that is desperate for answers. This is the kind of life you are called to live. And this is the kind of example your kids will want to follow. Jesus, I thank you for this day. I thank you that you use imperfect people to change the world, Lord. I am a living testimony of that. God, I pray you'd equip us. I pray you'd send us. Thank you that you want to use us. Thank you that you want us to demonstrate that you are active and relevant outside of the church, because you are. We love you and we thank you. Amen.